Welcome back to Trekyards, everybody. He is Commander Cockings.
He's kind of Foley.
And today we're talking about Lower Decks again. Season 5, Episode 9, Fissure Quest.
So let's do it. Many questions, but start with, what did you think?
Absolutely epic. We got those legacy characters returning. Even Jolene Balak is back as T'Pol. Spoilers. This is going to be all spoilers. No, it was great to see all of the returning people. And we learned a lot of new things. Defiant classes can land, don't you know? That's really cool. Like, there's a lot of really good stuff in here, and it's a fantastic story. I would say this is, hands down, easily the best of the season, and probably the best of Lower Decks. I guess not. The only problem is not a lot of Tendi, not a lot of Rutherford, not a lot of T'Lyn, none of the Cerritos crew, but that's fine. Kim back, Garrick back. I'm waiting. I can't wait, for the next part. I wish it wasn't a to be continued one, but it is, and that's fine. But no, this is something I've been excited about for a while, to see this kind of thing, and it's really fantastic storytelling, in my opinion. The problem I have, which we'll get into, I'm sure, at some point, is which Kim is the baddie. Is he from our reality or not? Probably not, because we don't know. Anyway, we'll get there. We'll talk about that when we get there. Regardless, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was really fun, and it kind of all makes sense now. I love the idea of the alternate reality exploration and their own prime directive, which was a neat little touch, and to bring Lily back as well. Not my favorite character by any stretch, but it's great to have her back. And anyway, that's where I stand. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. How about you?
Yeah, it's definitely, it puts a season to more of a make sense, right? They obviously realised that, just like Picard season 3, they're going to do a huge percentage of their entire season's budget on the last two, or at least this episode, and therefore their episodes had to be slimmed down for this sort of extra fun, right? To then suddenly have what felt like kind of a movie, in terms of, like, we gave the audience exactly what Lower Decks can do, and to an extreme, and to a commitment to the bit. We didn't cut back to the crew doing anything. It's like Intimate Darkly, right? We were in the bit fully, while still having it be our alternate Boimler. So it was still our ship, our Boimler. So there was still a grounding, which, like, Intimate doesn't have, because it's all alternate universe. So that was really nice. But the problem is that this episode needs to be, like, everything has been set up conceptually to bring you this. So it had to be like 9, 10 out of 10. But I was expecting it to be really good, and it was, but I wish it was throughout the season. I don't think it was worth putting this much cool to pull so much out of earlier episodes. They should have had multiple Boimler and Defiant sequences in other episodes. They should have had, honestly, episode 1, the reveal of the ring ship, come in and reveal that crew. Episode 1. Because this much cool in one episode makes the whole season feel much worse, because it should have been put throughout. But finally, Section 1 Film Boimler, really good. No villainy, really good. Just a really good version of it. Loved Engineer Mariner. I thought it was a really fresh take on just a smarter Mariner, and she was great. I really liked Tawny's acting. Really good on that. Really happy to bring her down. The Kim reveal was fun. The multi-Kims and the why can't there be ensign, past ensign? Because, don't promote him too soon, he goes a bit mad of power or something, whatever, right? Garrick and Bashir, I mean, I've never thought they were a couple once, ever. I haven't watched DS9 several times, but they're doing the fans, that version of the fandom wanted that, so we got to see it. Cool. I get it. Fun, smart. T'Pol, I've talked about T'Pol, they've talked about they want to bring T'Pol back, how it makes sense. Here she is, although they don't say time travel, so they're implying that she's like 280 years old, which we saw from NX-01 when she was that old. She looks and is older, so we're going to ignore the fact that doesn't make sense, because I'm sure there's some sort of time travel they just didn't explore, but whatever. Fine, whatever. Really inspired choice showing Curzon. Not that I thought Curzon was going to be, but it wasn't our Curzon. That was really fun. But I'm also, like, worried that next week I want to see more about this crew, but I think we're going to leave them and not come back to them, except maybe in the last beat, because they've had their fun, and now we're going to go back to a serious episode. But I want to see what happened to them, because that was a really unique framework. But But I think that was it. I think that was our one. We're going to put 3 times episode budget into one episode because a lot of sets, a lot of costumes. Like they put a lot of money in this. I think next week's going to be a lot cheaper feeling, and then maybe at the end they're going to come through and like the last third to give our lead some stuff. But I really like this team because it was so unique and special.
Well, you mentioned the time travel thing, and I thought that too at the time. But also, you got to keep in mind that Lily is also from another dimension, and she's still alive. She would be long dead. She's a lot older, obviously. Yeah, there's got to be some kind of time travel element stuff to that. I want to hear the stories now of how they acquired this crew. Like how they acquired T'Pol, how they acquired, all the Kims. I think there's some interesting stuff there.
And why they all agreed to not be in their universe and join this motley crew. Because there's no distinct reason for any of them, and it's not as if they're in uniform, and it certainly implied they've been doing it for a while, so it was definitely a slightly threadbare setup, but Boimler's annoyance with the fact that he's done it so long tells you that they've been doing it for such a long time. So it infers a lot of story, but it would be great to see T'Pol in uniform and Curzon in uniform, and which uniform and how, and then, more questions, right? Like, why is one Kim allowed to be in flight suit?
Well, that's how he got acquired, is the gag, right? So, one of the things I really loved and kind of laughed out loud is Boimler didn't mention Section 31. He was an organization I can't talk about. I thought, yes, thank you. So I got to give them props for that one because, Section 31's been thrown around so much and it's just so not secret.
Still the badge, though.
I know, but still.
They kind of best of both worlds did, or least bad of both worlds did. But that was definitely a nice touch. Well, I guess precedent setting that they've got an alternate universe travel device that's entirely flawless. Cool. Good for Section 31. Although, where's the rest of his crew? I guess they all died in the mission.
Did they get slowly replaced? Yeah, I thought that too. Like, how did you get a crew totally of alt dimension people?
Because there was no link between, because Boimler's the same age. So let's say he's 27. To be captain implies that his crew died and he was given the reins, and now he's like in Valiant, right? Like he wouldn't be captain otherwise. There's no reason he would be. He's no specific skills. Now, had they said, for example, now this obviously it could in part 2, or if it was a true 2-parter and this was we left the main plot, right? They could have said, only a weird universal being could travel dimensions, and because he was transporter cloned, he exists as a weird temporal universal being. That would be great. So he's the only one that can, and he's given captain so the computer recognise him as a commander. Cool. But yeah, where was his crew? Where was his captain? Where was his second in command? He would have been lieutenant commander at best. How long has he been doing it for? I mean, we know, we assume about a year for the anomalies, if the season's a year, or let's say 6 months. I doubt they were chasing before that. So yeah, there's definitely questions. Although decent captain, of course, but we knew Boimler was capable of it. Didn't do many Boimlerisms, but yeah, had to go from being lieutenant with a crew to a captain with other people.
With the time things going on, who knows? He could have been doing this for 5 years at this point, but only 1 year in our universe, right? Because he is very sick of the multi-dimension thing. Which is one of my favorite things, though, was the Anaximander, the ship. Seeing the Defiant back was cool, and then to see the landed configuration with the thing that lowers down, and you see the landing legs. I like that because we like tech here. We love ships. That's an interesting thing, and yeah, it makes sense. The Defiant's not a big ship. So why wouldn't it be able to land? I'm just sad we never saw it in DS9, so.
Unfortunately, again, but it looked as if the landing turbolift came from the middle, which of course is a hangar bay.
Hangar bay. I thought the same thing. Yeah.
So of course, had they done that, they'd have to do another thing on change the model. Yeah, gorgeous, great idea. Of course it can. To see it was lovely. Sets a precedent. Now you can do it in a fan film. And now we've got a version of that, because the same thing with Voyager, right? You could argue it's probably a turbolift shaft that could come from the saucer down, or the secondary hull down. So now we've got as a creative, I've now got that turbolift thingy shaft as a example point to recreate it.
Doug Drexler's version of the landed saucer of the TOS one had the main planetary sensor dome come down, and that was... But I thought with the Defiant, you could have the nose part, the removable weapons pod, angled down to become a ramp. But, I agree. Seeing Mariner, a different version of Mariner, who's engineering, and Boimler was like, "You're really good at engineering." Yeah, and? Oh, sorry. Just didn't expect it. He didn't expect it from her, which was great. And her being afraid of being in a cell, essentially. I've never been in jail before. Was great. Like, I love the alternate version of Mariner. I think she's really fun. So
yeah, it was almost a here's the 10 checklist parts of a character. We're gonna cross off 5 of them and assume the reverse. And take all the mental baggage of her mum, of being a rebel, all that stuff is just gone. So she was very, honestly, a good Starfleet officer from top to toe. No complaints. And didn't necessarily want a Mariner and just have the fun of everyone else, but because she was such a counterpoint, and yet, as they said in the episode, you know, because so many people have so many emotional ties to each other, you can form inter-universal bonds that are able to be trusted, was a really nice message. I really that then worked really well. Although,
I mean, another thing I really appreciated too was not only that T'Pol was back, like they actually got Jolene Bullock back, which I assumed for years she wouldn't come back because she never does conventions or anything,
or acting,
or acting exactly, yeah. So I wanted to make sure it was her. It absolutely is her. And to find out that her and Trip in that dimension were married for 63 years. That's great. Like, no dead Trip. Mike McMahon just fulfilling everybody's dreams, right?
Yeah, in a universe, it was okay. Yeah, and what a hell of a side plot with her and Curzon for no particular reason. That is such a strong setup for next part. So I don't really want to be back in our little Cerritos with them dealing with it. Like, that's an infinitely less interesting than what we just saw. But of course, you pay for them for 2 episodes, you ruin the entire season's budget by casting 2 episodes worth of them, right?
Well, I mean, they'll definitely be in the second episode. I'm sure of it. Just maybe not as big a part, because the last 2 episodes of this show, we've kind of been missing our leads: Boimler and Mariner, Rutherford, Tendi. They weren't in the last episode. They just bookmarked it because it was Upper Decks. This one, again, they're completely absent, except for the alternates of Boimler and Mariner. So yeah, they got to focus on the actual cast of the show for the last episode. But I would love to see a meeting of the 2 Boimlers again and something like that happen, and I'm sure they will do that. So yeah.
Wouldn't it be odd if our Boimler sacrificed himself and this Boimler takes over, a la Voyager? But although you say all that about the cast, the little amount that Rutherford and Tendi have been this season, I wish they are so sub-characters this season that I don't need to see them hugely in the next episode because they're not in the season enough for me to necessarily want to see more of them. Like, Boimler and Mariner, they're the leads. The other 2 are secondaries. Sorry. That's how they framed this season. So actually, I don't give them 2 or 3 jokey scenes, bits, but keep them minimal because I want time to poll. And you could argue the catharsis of the season should be every version we see go back to the universe. So we see her go to Trip and hug him. We see, you could argue that's not what they set up. This big multi-universal fan love fest, right? Of like multiple universes having fun and cuddling, and like that could be super sweet, right? So, even so much as like, T'Pol hugging Trip and saying, obviously Connor being back and saying, hey, we need to go to this other universe to hand back to Jadzia, as in conceptually to Curzon. Then we see Jadzia in it, talk to Trip and T'Pol. Like, you can end up having a really amazing, like, because they've set all that stuff up, right?
But where would Garrick and Bashir go? Which of their realities?
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Well, speaking of, what do you think of all the voice cast? Because of course, legacies are all getting older, and voice is different to performance, and if you're in makeup as well, it's all going to be different. So how do you think each person did relative?
To Paul, like I said, I had to look it up to make sure it was her, because multiple reasons. It didn't really sound like her in my opinion, but you always say I can never hear the actors. So Bashir sounded really off. The only one that sounded kind of good to me was Garrick. Lily, of course, sounded like an older Lily, which was fine. But yeah, I didn't really hear their characters except for Garrick and Lily. So
yeah, I feel like I have strong opinions on this one for once. I feel like, yeah, Garrick, he really zoned in, and I congratulate him for getting through that, because it's not his normal voice. He's putting on a character, and considering the guy's quite old, and he was, really good. And enough of the original Garrick, because none of these people were the ones we knew, right? But he had that kind of charm that you did hear from Garrick. So Garrick, great. Really liked him back. To Paul, I wasn't sure until midway through it was actually Jolene, because it was like, the acting's good, but I wasn't convinced it was her.
She didn't step back into the character, in my opinion. She just came in and did voice work. And I
Well,
think
she stepped back into a Vulcan, just not to Pol's Vulcan so much. Like, I still got good Vulcan, but not all the...
It's also a Vulcan that's been married to Trip for 63 years. And Boimler even introduces her as our expert in human emotion. So...
Yeah, that I could have been convinced that wasn't Jolene, but I thought it was just an older version. So pretty good. I was convinced that wasn't Bashir Alexander. I was like, they got a sound alike. Because almost no lines sounded like... I thought it was a sound alike in several scenes. So when he was in the credits, I'm like, I've heard him talk, and he doesn't sound that way. So I was shocked that was actually him. I was like, oh, they got everyone except Alexander to play Bashir.
Oh, and Kim. Kim was good.
Yeah.
Talked with Garrett many times over the years, and yeah.
Garrett hasn't changed. Garrett's always Garrett. I feel like Garrett. And I obviously I don't know Lily's voice, the actress, enough to recognise it as being her personally. She's in one movie, and I don't...
He didn't again step into the character of Bashir, in my opinion. He just went in and got paid to do voiceover, and it didn't shine through. So
well, it's also tricky because he wasn't playing Bashir. He's playing a married hologram flirty guy, and none of those things are really ever what Bashir was. Like, you've got early Bashir, who is a 30 years younger actor playing a young sweetheart. Sounds a certain way. Then you've got, where you end up in season 7, very stoic, very crisp and older. And none of that was how he played it. He played it entirely. So I didn't even hear the character, let alone the voice. So he was, just, yeah. So yeah, but yeah, shocked on that, but,
I want to get your thoughts on something that I kind of mentioned in my preamble there. Which Kim do you think is the evil Kim? Is it from... It wouldn't be from our dimension because they're going through dimensional fissures, I guess. But I just thought it was odd that... I feel bad because I didn't want him to be the bad guy, even though we kind of speculated it might be a Kim making these fissures to look for other Kims. But... Because they say, did your Voyager make it home? Yes. I mean, I'm sure more than one Voyager made it home. I just found it interesting. Like, is the Kim in our universe promoted, or is he still an ensign? I'd like to know an answer to that at some point, because I don't kind of like where they left it, and I'm sure they'll fix it, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it was as surface level as it played it, as in multiverse. Kims are get everywhere because they're enthusiastic and they're in Starfleet and cool. And for the most part, all the Kims aren't quite at the promotion age where we are in the era. Assuming all those universes are at the same rough time, that makes sense. This Kim happened to be promoted as soon as Voyager came back. He's a bit more career driven, and he was just pissed. I mean, I thought it was very surface level. He's just a Kim from a universe. I didn't think for a second not any of them are Kim, but I do now expect to see real Kim at the end of our last episode as the final note, because you really can't as a storyteller do all of that gag and not cut back to our Kim who's in the grey, who's Lieutenant Junior, split the difference, one promotion, which would be a funny way of saying that, or even after credit, right? It's like, oh, I got a message from another kid, another universe, or anything, or even just having drinks with Paris, like something super small. Just see him, or in St. Clair, right, at the actual bar, playing pool with Paris, both Lieutenant Junior, Grade Lieutenant. And you need to see. If they don't, that'll be a distinct, as Sean would say, a down, because they've set that up as a need, just to kind of finish, as you say, to not add confusion to who our Kim is. So we need to see a Kim, and it'll need to be Lieutenant Junior, at least.
A lot of potential for the next one. Unfortunately, this ramped up my expectations for the next one, but not at the same time. I'm hoping, because it's called The New Generation, how it's going to end off. Hopefully it's a good send-off for everybody. Hopefully we get, all the characters have something. But considering they got all these legacies stacked now, like you said, if they're more in this episode, because you don't want them stealing the thunder of the Lower Decks people, because then you get the whole Enterprise final episode series finale syndrome, where it's like you kind of came in and walked all over our show, basically. But the legacy characters kind of steal the thunder. So I don't know how I want it to resolve.
Although you say that about stealing thunder, but I don't think any of the legacies stole Boimler's thunder.
No, no, but
Which I think is well done, because none of them were our version of characters. None of them were leads, and they all had enough, but not... And you wouldn't expect them all to have enough. Like, Bashir and Garrick could have been written out and not change anything in the story, really. But it was nice to see them, right? They were all framed... Boyne was absolute centre stage. Mariner had a really good role. So I think they did a really good job. I don't... Even in next week, they wouldn't be overshadowed, because none of these secondaries, legacies, are big enough in the story to take over. Except maybe a Kim, as in... a Captain Kim or a Commander Kim, right? That would be possibly, like, give him the second half. And considering Enterprise the comparison, that shows the difference of these are the Voyages been episode 18 of 20 or 21, and then a last one. Because this doesn't feel like, even though without our main cast, doesn't feel like disrespectful, because you've had one with the Upper Decks, one with the Giant Story Fun, ending on our leads. That's how you should do it. Enterprise should have just moved things around, right? Just shifted, it would be absolutely fine, right? So I was very pleased, I was, like I say, very proud that Boimler is our Boimler. It is our Boimler, and we have genuine connection to this version of him. He was our Season 1 and Season 2 guy until Split. Was still the lead, and still a lot of little growth in that. And not evil. He was still our guy. And then, obviously, we've entirely almost ignored the ring ship.
Yeah.
Which, you and me, man, I'm sure we were like,
Yeah.
You did the ring ship.
And it was called the Beagle. I liked the design of it. When I first saw it, I'm like, that's not the Enterprise? No, it's not. It's a different design. But I do like its functionality. I love its landed sequence. I'm sure we're going to talk about it again in another video. Make sure you subscribe. But the fold down ring and all that stuff, it was great. It was an interesting idea. And even the patch on Lily's shoulder showing the ship, I think was cool. Lots to like there. I found that the interior monitors, the LCARs, were a little off. They're more motion picture era, especially colors and vibe. They didn't have that NX kind of feel. Small little detail, but
they're 27 universes away, right?
It's true, exactly. Yeah.
That I thought. Neither of us love the ring ship concept, but that design has a special place in both of our hearts, I think. And I recognize it instantly, although different, of course. And I think. This season benefited from no villain and no attempted villain, because while Paris was amazing, or not Paris, it falls down a little bit. The fact that it wasn't a villain, it was a beautifully Starfleet message, was a lovely last season thing. That said, I really could have done with that in episode 1. I know that sounds silly, but knowing the smallness, seeing them journey through universes and meet other casts and be, have some struggles would have really amped up, I think, the season for me versus, that's the reason? Okay. It's cool, but that's it, right? It was a 12-second explanation, and then now we're done. It was very small, like almost as small as it obviously became universe killing, but like it was the smallest plotline possible. Pre-NX, first test ship, cool.
I did love their version of their Prime Directive, though. Not contaminate cultures that don't have interdimensional travel. That was great.
Conceptually it's beautiful. I just wish it was in the season more. Because landing was gorgeous. That was super fun. Lily was cool. I mean, very underdeveloped, but yeah, great uniform. We saw full sets. I mean, that was how far are they going to go? No, full sets. An X-Bridge kind of, all oversized a bit, but it was cool. And I guess now they're all that entire crew is now on the Defiant. I don't know if you noticed also the NX, they had both the purple version and the blue version. Because, of course, I think the rationale is that the real uniforms are a slight purple, but they came off as blue on screen. So if you have an original, one colour, but if you have a fan replica, it's another colour. And Lily was the purple and everyone else was the blue. Small note, but they had a very distinct colour difference.
I didn't even notice that. I'll have to check that next time I watch.
Yeah, really fun. And I mean, every time you see NX is a joy, because it's never served as an era. Although, boy, can you imagine if Zephyrin also came back for that? If he was like chief engineer? I know he's a lot older.
Or just a speech about interdimensional travel instead of warp travel.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, we're adding fan subs on fan subs, but imagine if they'd shown, like, say there's a 2-parter or even a 3-parter, and Lily shows the log of the launch of the warp of the transdimensional warp ship. It's the same scene for Enterprise, and there's the Cochrane on the screen, giving the same speech, but now with, now he finally got to that age. The actor, because he was up age for that. Yeah, I mean, are we at the point though where this episode will sing or fall based on the part 2? which we do see sometimes. Are we there?
That's interesting. I mean, this one's kind of stands alone as awesome just for bringing the legacies back and stuff. But yeah, I think any two part episode kind of needs that cohesion. And you can tell the ones that they had written part 1 without thinking about part 2, like Best of Both Worlds. Sad as it is, the first part's way better than the second part. If you're going to write a 2-part story, write the whole story, then break it up. Because, and I know Mike McMahon's definitely done that, so I'm hoping for a good cohesive story here. I don't think this one can fall down much, even if part 2's not great. I kind of expect part 2 to wrap up, like as per Lower Decks, kind of wrap up within the first like 5 or 10 minutes, and then have the proper farewell to the crew of the Cerritos with another kind of story.
Oh, well, and you mentioned Best of Both Worlds. This does feel very similar. Giant build-up and an end point. And I actually don't mind if they did reference Best of Both Worlds, that they do solve the problem super easily. And then let the two bombers meet, all these different characters, then you get the fun of Howard, Bashir, and Garrick talk to Tiana. Then you can actually play with those concepts a bit, leading to maybe our Kim has to take the Kims back, and like you say, because it could just be as simple as in Best of Both Worlds, they just fire a new pulse and win. It could be that easy, right?
Yeah, for part 2, considering that Boimler now has the information and he's screamed and taken off, he's going to take it to the bridge crew. It can bring it's an open door for bringing in other legacies from our universe to help with the problem, like maybe the real Data, maybe Geordi, maybe even the real Kim. Like, why did this Kim do this? And they get our Kim to come in and kind of, that would be interesting. And I think that's kind of the way that this is left, like, because now it's in our universe to solve the problem so that our universe doesn't get destroyed. So who are you going to bring in?
Also, Data's dead, just saying.
Well, yeah. Well, who are you going to bring in? The best of the best, right? So call in Geordi, call in B'Elanna, call in somebody.
Call in Spock, he's alive.
To help solve this problem. So
maybe they did the jellyfish to...
So our whole dimension doesn't get destroyed, And I think with the way it's set up, that might be the case. We might get another 1 or 2 legacy surprises in the last episode.
The problem is that's the expectation we're now bringing. Because they've spent a lot of money, and I'm sure Jolene was like, I'm not going to come back for less than this. I mean, Curzon, that has been dead for 30 years. I mean, he came back. Good job with the Shax actor. It was a good performance by him. Yeah, I don't know. It's either going to be incredibly linear to our cast and give them the send-off, or it's going to be incredibly part 2 and include everyone we just saw and develop it further. I think fans will want to see continuation, but it's like, why not make the last episode 40 minutes? I know why.
This was 28. This was pushing that.
It was. I was very happy with that because it needed to be. And it was really well paced, like very long, and yeah. I hope the next one's like 39, 35. Like, give it that extra bit. I mean, bloody hell, Discovery got like 2 million, whatever, 500,000 to film an epilogue. Give them, finish the story as they originally intended and give them an extra 10 minutes of wrap up. Like, it's so cheap for a show, right? Relative. I don't think they did that. I've not heard they've done that. Although it would be a nice surprise if it's like 46 minutes. Yes. You never know, right?
But at least now what Jack Quaid said with all the legacies makes sense, because we were watching the entire season going, okay, well, there's 2 legacies. Okay, that's not really super impressive. But
Brent, of course, pretty cool.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he said there's going to be so many legacies, you're going to be so blown away, and it's like, okay, we weren't blown away, but now it's like, oh yeah, okay, you've done it. You've got a lot of really cool people in there, so. Yeah. Yes,
but also as you said wonderfully, it would be if you and I were planning a season and we had Brent Spine in the booth and we said, hey, could we record 10 lines for the last episode? Like, we've already got you here. You've already signed a contract. Throw 10 more K and just do the last bit. So it would make sense. That never happens, right? But like saying to George K last year, can we make sure we get, we know we're going to do epilogue or whatever. Like, to see Brent would be super nice as a version of Data. We've given unlimited universes, right? Or even Lore. I mean, imagine Lore being there to help the universe shifting, right? To have Brent as both. Right, there's stuff you could do, or even a bloody Sung. I don't necessarily want a Sung because there's obviously Arik on the Picard planet. You could bring him back. Alton, yeah. But that's the problem. Exploitation. They threw the kitchen sink when they could have done a nice gentle season. So next week, if they don't throw another kitchen sink at it, I'll be disappointed. But that might have been the one we just saw, and that's what we get. That's the really weird thing about throwing everything at one.
I can't wait for next week because then we can see how it is as a cohesive whole. But as of right now, I'm super impressed. Maybe my expectations are too high going into next week, but I do have a feeling that it's going to be a pretty quick wrap up, maybe like 10 minutes of the episode, and then move on to the kind of farewell to Lower Decks.
It would be cute if R. Kim comes in, helps save the day, and he gets promoted in this episode.
Because of saving the entire dimension, universe.
Because that's very in Kim's repertoire. I'm just saying, and that would actually be really nice if he gets Ensign for some reason, Lieutenant Junior, or Lieutenant Junior to Lieutenant Full. That'd be really satisfying to take that and see it in canon.
Or a promotion up to honorary captain because you saved the entire dimension.
Yeah, they do that. They do it other times. Yeah, that's called Thursday.
It'd be a great way to end Lower Decks of the forever Ensign being promoted to captain.
But of course that would be Enterprise, right? Giving those legacies too much power, so you can't do that too much.
Yeah, that's true.
So it all depends how you balance it. I wonder if Mariner and Boimler are going to get promoted at the end, or Boimler. I wonder if that's the logical ending, that he becomes full lieutenant. Because it wouldn't make sense for Mariner because he doesn't want the
responsibility.
Yeah, so Boimler would make sense. Although would it be... Well, this Boimler's already captain, but... Admiral Boimler. Rear Admiral Boimler. But then this Boimler ran away. And also I wouldn't want him promoted because he's coasting off another Boimler all season. That's not very good to do, is cheat off someone else's test. So he shouldn't be promoted. That'd be a bad lesson to learn. Lots to do in 28 minutes.
But I do have faith in Mike McMahon and his team. They know their
faith
stuff.
In the heart?
So.
Is that what you have, Stuart? Faith in the heart?
I do have faith of the heart, yes. And on that note, do you guys have faith of the heart? What are your thoughts about this episode, the returning legacies, as well as what could be in part 2? Comment down below. We want to hear your thoughts. And please like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those ship videos that we're going to obviously be doing. And, come back and join us for lives and stuff. So click the notification bell icon as well. Do all the things. And we'll see you in live or something.
And if you want to support what we do here, you can! On the Patreon, it's monthly, or join the channel on YouTube, also monthly, and we thank you very much for any and all support. It is absolutely phenomenal. Or join those live, say hi, and super chat your thoughts, comments, questions, or just that hi. Or buy a shirt at the link down below, or just watch every single thing we do. There's a lot of stuff.
Which is lots.
Yeah.
So until next time, guys, he's Commander Cockings.
He's Captain Foley.
See you
Bye,
soon.
guys.